Hi, I'm Whitney. I'm one of the readers here at Earth and Soul, and I'd like to introduce a new service we're going to be offering. I recently qualified as a master hypnotherapist, and so for the time being, we're going to focus on stress reduction sessions. But in the future, we plan to have weight reduction and smoking cessation, as well as other behavior modification and different habits that can be helped with hypnotherapy. And then in the more distant future, offering regressions as well. That's some additional training to what I have already. So I look forward to doing it, but I've got a little more training to do first. I'd like to dispel some misconceptions about hypnotherapy and hypnosis. First of all, how it works is that hypnosis taps into the subconscious mind. We spend the majority of our time living in our conscious mind. That's the part of the brain that recognizes patterns and analyzes situations and solves problems. And so, our world's kind of set up to use those faculties more than our subconscious mind, which is where our permanent and long-term memory is, also where we form associations. And so it's that memory and those associations that we're able to modify through hypnotherapy, which can lead to different behaviors and changes in habits. Our conscious mind is much weaker than our subconscious mind. It hasn't been, from an evolution point of view, it hasn't been around nearly as long as our subconscious mind has. And so the subconscious mind is considered to be way more powerful than the world we live in our conscious mind. I'd like to dispel some misconceptions about hypnosis. There's two main ones. The first one is that the misconception that you can get stuck in the hypnotic state. And the second misconception is that in hypnosis you can be made to do things you wouldn't ordinarily do when you're in your conscious mind. So that first misconception about getting stuck, that would be a very scary thought for sure, but I'd like to point out that we have all experienced hypnosis, whether we've ever gone to a hypnotherapist or hypnotist or not. And the classic example of that is called highway hypnosis. That's when you arrive at your destination without any memory at all of the road you were on, the turns you made, any recollection of getting there. And we've all experienced that. It happens if we're going on a familiar route, and we're not having to think very much about how we need to get there. We're just on autopilot. The thing about highway hypnosis that also is true of hypnotherapy in the hypnosis state when it's being induced by a hypnotherapist is that you can snap out of it immediately. On the highway, if an animal ran out in front of you, you'd snap out of your daze immediately and go back into that conscious mind of recognizing there's a problem and immediately analyzing and figuring out, oh, I need to hit the brakes right now. That thinking, that conscious mind. So we flip-flop back and forth so many times every day. And the same occurs when we are in an induced hypnotic state with a hypnotherapist. The other misconception that I'd like to dispel is the idea that in hypnosis you can be made to do things that would embarrass you or that go against your values or your free will. I think that comes from the idea of stage hypnotists. And the difference between a stage hypnotist and a hypnotherapist is the intent of the hypnosis. In stage hypnosis, the intent is to entertain and to amuse an audience, and the hypnotist is using basically the same methodology, but one of the differences, the hypnotist is picking people from the audience who are very suggestible and also very open and interested in entertaining other people. For example, I went to a stage hypnotist when I was in high school with my boyfriend at the time. And my boyfriend at the time was in theater. And so, of course, he loved to be on stage. And of course, he loved to entertain people. He did some stand-up comedy, so he liked making people laugh. And so the hypnotist bypassed me. I'm not going to, my free will was going to block any intention of, I think he lost his bottom, his butt was one of the suggestions. And so the people on stage were going around holding their bottoms and looking very confused, trying to find their butts. I wasn't going to do that, and the hypnotist knew that. But he tapped my boyfriend, and my boyfriend did that and clucked like a chicken and all the stereotypes that we know about stage hypnosis. That's because the people that were tapped to go on stage, it was totally in alignment with their free will. They wanted to do things like that. And so when people who, like me, who wouldn't want to do that, see that happening, sometimes they take that everybody can be made and suggested to do crazy stuff that we wouldn't want to do in our conscious state. And that's just not true. The person who's being hypnotized stays in complete control. The hypnotized state is very similar, synonymous with very, very, very deep relaxation. And not quite sleep, but it's okay to go to sleep during hypnosis. Your subconscious mind is still open to suggestions from the hypnotherapist, but it's a little slightly different state where you might have experienced that yourself, just being so completely relaxed that it takes a little while to even return to the room. I said earlier that you can snap right out of it, and that's true. But when there isn't an emergency or a reason to snap out of it, sometimes you just kind of want to stay there a little while because it's very peaceful and very relaxing. So in that relaxed state, your mind becomes very, very open to make more associations. I said earlier about the subconscious mind being the site of making associations, and I'll give an example of that. The associations are very individualized. They don't make sense because they're not of the conscious mind. They're subconscious. And so an aroma that might be considered obnoxious to somebody else can be a beautiful thing to the person who has made a different association with it. For example, the smell of fishy lake water and motorboat exhaust are not anything you're going to smell at Bed Bath & Beyond, but to me, the smells immediately take me back to my childhood and visiting my grandmother's house on the lake. And so there's some of my favorite smells, and doesn't make sense because it's not conscious mind. And so in that subconscious mind, we make those associations, we make new associations all the time. And in hypnotherapy, it's a very focused, goal-directed time to make new associations and alter previous associations that aren't working out for the person's best interest. So if you're interested in having a stress reduction session, contact Earth and Soul. The number is 918-245-4311, and we can schedule a session. Stay tuned for weight reduction, tobacco cessation, and the other behavior modification hypnotherapy sessions. And if you have any questions, be sure to call. I strongly encourage people to try a nice, wonderful, relaxing stress reduction session with hypnotherapy. Thank you for listening.